All right, welcome to Nomad Sculpt. Let's get started. So this should be your default screen, something like this. I'm just going to point out a few things that might be different or things that I'm going to reference later. So this is the snap cube right here. So I'm just going to tap it and make sure I'm looking at front. And notice how you can see this green line and the red line. And also this is the gizmo. So these are your tools over here. This is the gizmo. So we're going to use this to move our 3D sculpt around. To undo, take 2 fingers and you can tap on the screen. Okay, so if you don't see this grid, if you hit front and you don't see the grid, go into your camera and make sure you're on orthographic. Yours might be a different color than mine. If it is, just go here and you can adjust the color to anything that you want. Also, if your sphere doesn't look smooth, go here, down to smooth shading, and you can turn it on. Yours might be off by default. So let's import our image. So press here, reference image. You can tap here, import, photos, and then we'll find our little ghost. Add. We're going to close this little window, and then we're going to hit transform, and now you can move this around. I think this is pretty good. Just tap on the screen once to go back to sculpting. I'm using a matte cap, so yours looks like this. And I don't like to sculpt with it white. It's a little bit hard to see. So I like to switch to a fake kind of color lighting setup that just helps me sculpt. So I'm going to go here to this little sun, switch from lit PBR to matte cap. You can tap the matte cap, and then you can choose any of these colors that you'd like. I think it's called PXG clay, so we'll go with PXG clay. So first let's make a floor. We're going to imagine that the top of the floor is this red line. So we go here, add, and let's do a cylinder. And then let's use this little green dot to shrink it. And then we'll take the green arrow and we'll move it down so that the top lines up with the red line. And let's make this a little smoother around the edges. Let's tap here. Post subdivision 2. You can also drag 2. And then we'll bring this division X. We'll scroll that down. We'll do 30. And now hit validate. And anytime you add any primitive, it's going to ask you to validate. That just makes it officially part of your project. So before you validate, you can't use any of these tools. Once you validate, you can use all the tools. Okay, so now that we have our floor, we can get rid of the grid. So I'm going to tap here. And now we can take this sphere and we can move it up with the green arrow. Maybe right about there. So I'm going to sort of imagine that he has a little bit of depth to him. So if we turn it to the side, obviously this is just a sphere, but I kind of want it to be flatter on the bottom. So I'm going to take my tools. I'll take move. I'm going to bring the radius up a little bit to maybe like 310. Make sure I'm on the sphere and make sure we have symmetry on. And just so you can see, if I hit front, we have symmetry on. So if I tap, you see 2 dots. If you turn it off, only 1. So symmetry will just do everything on both sides. So we'll turn symmetry on, and then we'll take move and we can just kind of drag the bottom down. And I kind of want there to be a little bit of space underneath his belly. I want to make sure the top is sort of broad. So maybe something like that. The front looks good. Let's turn to the side. So we'll turn to the left side. I think I'll make this a little bit smaller. I want them to be a little flatter here. Something like that. So nice and round and pudgy. I think that looks good. So the next step is we'll make the legs. So we go to our scene, and this is going to be the body. So let's rename it. We'll tap here, name, and body. This cylinder we'll rename floor. Let's save our progress. So we'll tap the folder, save. So now let's add 2 more spheres that will eventually be the legs. Okay, so now we can take our gizmo, and notice we haven't validated it yet. So we'll shrink it with the large orange ring. We'll move it up over to where about the legs are, and let's stretch it. So let's use this green. We'll stretch it, and we'll move it up a little bit. So I'm thinking something like that, but I want it to be a little bit wider. So now that we've turned it, I'm going to stretch it this way. I think that's pretty good. I'm going to make it a little bit wider by stretching it this way. And we're going to tap mirror. So if we tap mirror, then it's going to mirror this on the other side, as long as we're looking at it at the front. So we'll hit mirror. So now we have 2 legs. So let's go ahead and validate. We'll take move, and we can adjust these legs until they look a little bit more like the reference. So I'm going to pull them up, and even though I'm technically tapping on this sphere, whatever shape is selected, even if it's behind here, it's going to affect that shape. So that's just kind of a nice touch that you don't have to hide something. I don't have to hide the body to be able to edit these. As long as it's selected, I can move the leg. And another quick tip is you can hit X-ray, and then you can actually see through it. And then whatever you touch is clear, and everything else is see-through. Pretty cool. So let's take move and just make sure our legs are how we want. I'm going to pull up a little bit, and then maybe pull it out so it's a little even with the side of the body. I like that. And on the left side, I'll just kind of stretch it out front and back. I think that looks pretty good. So now let's just do the same thing with the arms. And since it's all going to be part of the same body, if we tap here, we can add the sphere, and it's already in the mirror where the legs are. So just make sure that you label these. So this is the legs. So we'll name legs. And this will be the arms. So we can rename it arms. So we'll take our gizmo. We'll move it over, up. We'll take the large ring to shrink it. Okay, move it over. And maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger. And I think that's pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and validate and take move. And I'm just going to manipulate these until they look like the little arms. So maybe I'll stretch them with move. So we'll stretch out one side, and then I'll just continue to stretch out this side. with the move tool. You can take the gizmo, I might stretch it this way. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So now let's add these horns. So we'll use the tube tool. We'll use path. And we want to uncheck snap if yours was on. So we just want to use path. So the top is around here, so we'll tap down on the screen and then drag down and then let go. Then tap the green dot, and there we have our tubes. So let's sort of position the bottom one kind of where it would be coming out of the head. So I'm thinking about there. And then to make it curve, we just need to add another node by tapping in the middle and then just giving it a nice little curve. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So now using the tool settings, we just need to make this part thinner and this part wider. So we'll tap here where it says radius. If we tap once, and you see two nodes for the top and the bottom. So we'll make this smaller and this bigger. But if you can see, the shape is not quite right. So I'm going to tap this again, and then you can adjust each node here, even the middle one. So maybe we'll add another one here and make that a little bit bigger. And that looks a little bit closer. So one thing to note, you notice there's already a mirror, even though we haven't hit mirror. So let's tap on the scene and let's just take it out of the mirror with the arms and legs. Because this is going to be the horns. So this will have its own mirror. So let's tap mirror. Now it's in its own mirror. And make sure you rename the mirrors themselves, because eventually we're going to collapse them and it's going to take the name of what's in red. So we'll just name this arms and legs. Okay, let's save our progress. So once you're happy with your horns, we can go ahead and validate them. So now you see we have our mirror here, horns. We'll name this mirror arms and legs. Okay, so we'll go to the tube. Let's hit smooth. And we just want to smooth out our horn. And now you can see it's nice and round. So now let's tap on the red horns and hit validate. Join children. So now let's tap the red arms and legs, or let's, and we'll hit validate and join children. So we have the arms and legs here, but we need to voxel remesh the arms and legs to the body so that they're one piece. So we'll take arms and legs, we'll tap body, we'll go here, voxel, remesh, and let's bring the remesh number up to, we'll do it at like 180 and hit remesh. That's okay. And now you see that it's all one piece. But there was something that I forgot to add, so I hit undo. I wanted to give him or her some little cheeks.
Cake! Everybody loves cake.
So we'll add, this is extra credit, so I'm going to go a little faster because you don't have to do this. But I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to add a sphere. Okay, so here's our sphere. We'll go ahead and move it. We'll hit mirror. And now you can adjust them to however you like. I think that looks pretty good. I'll validate and then I'll use move to just sort of get them a little more in sync with the body. So we'll take this mirror, validate, and then join children. So now this is just an extra piece that we're going to voxel remesh to the body. Arms and legs, mirror, and body. We'll go here, voxel, remesh, 180, and we'll remesh it. Perfect. So now let's take smooth, make sure that symmetry is on, and then just lightly smooth out all these little creases. And you shouldn't have to apply too much pressure. If you want to see the bottom, you can hit solo. Okay, hit solo again to bring back the other pieces. We kind of lost a little bit of the definition, but that's okay. Okay, so now we use spheres for the eyes. So we'll tap here, we'll add sphere, and we can use our gizmo. And let's bring it up and sort of get it in the general position. Okay, we'll move it over. We can kind of size it up a bit, maybe around there. Looks like it's a little stretched, so I'll stretch it a little bit. And I'll bring it back into the body. That's actually not too bad. So if you want, you can kind of squash it a little bit and then rotate it with this red ring, so it's not kind of sticking out so much. I think that looks pretty good. So now let's use mirror. Let's move them out. Maybe down a pinch. So now for the mouth, we're going to use the mask tool. So let's tap on the body. Let's use mask. Okay, so we're using the mask. We have the radius around, like, let's say 25 or so. And we just want to make this mouth, or something like it. Okay, that's pretty good. I think I'm going to just edit it a little bit until I have it exactly like I want it. So now we have the mask tools up here. Let's just hit invert. So now that we've inverted it, the only part of the mesh that will move is the part that's unmasked, which is the mouth. I might put teeth on it, so I might move mine a little deeper. Well, you know I love putting teeth on my characters. Okay, so I'm happy with that, so I'm going to hit select or mask and just clear all. So that will clear the mask. And now we just need to smooth this out. So we'll just take the smooth tool and we can smooth it out. But you see that it made it a lot bigger once we smooth. So there is a way that might help us. Let's voxel remesh. So we'll recalculate all the polygons and hopefully it'll hold this size a little bit better. So we'll go here, voxel, let's remesh it at like 200. Okay, and now let's try to smooth. It's a little bit better. So I'm going to get that nice and smooth. But I still think the mouth is a little too big. So let's use drag. We can make it a little bit smaller. And drag and move are very similar. But I like to use drag when it's something a little bit more tight. Whereas move I usually use for more broad movements if I want it to be smooth. We'll make it a little bit bigger. So I'm just kind of moving it to sort of get back to the shape that I originally had it. Very gently, but I think that works. So I'm pretty happy with that now. I'm going to go ahead and voxel remesh it at 200 again. I like to voxel remesh sometimes when I want to lock something in. So now I'll smooth it, and hopefully it smooths nicely. We don't lose that much detail. No, I think that looks great. One other step that I wanted to do was also trim. Let's use trim and rectangle. And then we can make a rectangle like this. Whatever's in the white will get trimmed. So we just want to trim the bottom part of his little feet. So we'll do it right underneath. Something like that. Or voxel remesh first, if you want, and then smooth it. So let's go ahead and add some color. Let's change from matte cap back to lit PBR, so our sculpt will be white again. So we go here to the little sun. We'll switch from matte cap back to lit PBR. Let's go ahead and save our progress. So now we can add a color, and we just want to make him a little bit more matte. And by matte, I just mean less shiny. So we'll just tap this little circle with the line through it. And let's just bring the roughness up a little bit. So maybe something like that. You can hit paint all. Okay, that looks good. The eyes. Let's do... You can actually slide this over if we want to try to match the color. So it looks like it would be something like this. Maybe a little matte. I'm using BAAEF1, but you can use any color or similar color. I think that looks pretty good. And these are kind of pink. So we just tap that same button. Something like that. So we'll paint that. This, let's make black. So we go to black. And it looks like it's pretty shiny. So we'll kind of match that shininess. Let's tilt him forward a little bit. So we sort of have the same sort of angle. Okay, let's save this view. So we'll tap the little camera, add view. And I like to just name them numerically. So next we can just make these little colors. Let's color inside the mouth. So let's tap on this on the body. Let's tap this icon here for a layer, new layer, and let's just name it inside mouth. Okay, so we'll tap this color circle again. We'll tap the eyedropper and we'll grab the color from the eyes. Looks like it's a little more purple and a little more reddish. So I'll just kind of follow that color. Looks like it's about there. And then we can just use paint. And hopefully it'll paint on fairly clear. Just make sure you have symmetry on. Okay, great. So now we can just add these little pink spots. So let's go back to the layers. We'll add a new layer and we'll label it blush. Let's take a nice light pink color. So maybe something like that. And we can just paint on, paint here. Let's use smooth, but take the intensity all the way down to 0. And let's see if we can get this to kind of smooth a bit. Oh, smoothed all right. I'll bring this back up. So let's take the eyes. So right now we're in this mirror. Let's tap both of them so they're both selected. Clone. Let's name this one eyes. And let's name this one light. So we'll go to the sphere under eye light. We'll go to our white color. We can do paint all. And then we'll use the gizmo and we'll make them really small. Let's move them so we can see them. Make it really small. And we can place it on top. Let's take both of these, validate, and uninstance. And we hit yes. So now we have two of these, but they're not connected at all. So we can take this one on the left, and we can move it over. So if we hit front, we're just moving this one over, because if it's an actual glare of a light, which this is supposed to be, then they would kind of be in the same position. So they might both be, if the light's here, they might both be reflecting on the left side of the eye. Kind of like that. And let's make the little horns glow. So let's go to our scene, horns. We'll tap there and hit clone. So for these, let's go to the material, additive, and then always unlit. Okay, you can turn this up and down. Maybe we'll turn it down. I think that looks better. Nice. So let's tap this little camera. We can go right to our little view. So let's press this little sun thing. Let's turn the environment off and add a light. Okay, we'll use our gizmo and let's tap align. Align just makes it so you can move everything just left and right, completely left and completely right, and up and down. So it just kind of equals out the, or just like resets the gizmo. But you can take it off and then it's still the normal gizmo. So we want to tap on the light, we want to hit align, and let's bring it over. And just bring it up. I like to put the light kind of where the light is hitting. So I think this looks pretty good. Let's make this maybe 3, maybe 2. Okay, and let's maybe turn it a little bit. We'll try to match the light in the image. So it's really bright and it's sort of coming from around here. You can see the light is by the horn. So it would be something like that. And you can tell there's a pink light here. So we go back here. Here's the lights. Let's add a light. And let's change this light. So we'll go to where it says sun. We'll change it to point light. So this light will move over, and then we'll move kind of towards us. And let's change the color to a light pink. So maybe something like that, but it's a little too bright. So maybe let's see what we can do. Maybe if we put it close. Something like that looks okay. It looks like there's a blue light on the other side, so we'll go back to the lights. We can clone this one. We can move it over. We can kind of place it on the side of him or her. So we place it on the side. Let's make it a little brighter. Move it up. Let's change it to blue. Okay, I think that looks pretty good so far. I think that's pretty good for lights, but we have another light slot, so let's add one. And let's, probably looks good if it's maybe pointing down. So you just rotate and Maybe something like this. Maybe the light's coming sort of from the top, so it's kind of illuminated him. This is another sunlight. I'm just going to put it up here. So it kind of makes him a little bit brighter. So now let's add our environment back. So we go to the little sun and we'll add environment. We can probably tone it down a bit. So that looks pretty good. And let's tap our body. And let's go to material and let's change from opaque to subsurface. Let's bring the depth down a little bit, maybe to 0.065 or so. I think that's not too bad. And now let's go here to this little shutter. We'll turn the quality up. We'll tap post-process. Now when we go down, you can just kind of match my settings here. You can play around with these. This is for like the ambient occlusion and shadows. I think that looks pretty good. And I want to make this surface a little less, I want to make it a little less shiny. So I have to go to the layers and go to the base, because the base is underneath the inside mouth and the blush. So I still want it white. I think I just want it a little more rough. Okay, let's go ahead and make the background. So we tap here, we'll make the background black. Maybe not completely black, maybe like something like that. And I want to try to adjust one of these lights to put more of a shadow. Yeah, I think I like that. So I'm pretty happy with that, but of course you can play around with lights, play around with materials, colors, change it, but I'm pretty happy with how this little guy looks. I'll hit front. Okay, I like that. So I'm going to save this. So I'm just going to tap this and update the view, but actually I need to go here, uncheck the reference image, and then resave it. Now we can go up here if you want to. 000 is what I like. Hit the turntable. And he's looking good. There's his little buns. But I think that's about it. Hopefully you had fun. I'll probably pop this little guy over into Blender, because I always bring everything over into Blender. But this was a fun little sculpt, and hopefully you learned a lot. It's important to just use the shapes and learn the tools, and you'll get to know Nomad before you know it. It's a lot of fun. You can, like, I can make characters like this forever. Oh, also, and if you want to export, go here. Oop, let's save my progress. We'll go down to render, and then you can render the screen. Export PNG, and then it will render.